Alright guys, Hayzink here, welcome back to the channel for another Street Fighter Duel video. So this is going to be the second last tier list. There's going to be one more after this for assist slot units, okay? This is actually probably going to be the most easy one to make, I'm going to say, because to be honest there is actually quite a lot of options when it comes to tanking, and to be honest there's good options whether you be free to play or pay to win, so it doesn't really matter. Pay to play, I don't like to say pay to win because you still need to actually play, but yeah, we're going to go over these now. To qualify tank, right, tank by definition is really someone who can take a lot of damage, right, but you want more than just simply a meat shield, right? A meat shield is not going to do much for you. You need your meat shield to actually perform a function, and we have various different functions. We've got damage functions, we've got support functions within that kind of scope, okay? So depending on what they do is really going to dictate where they go, right? So let's just start off with the bad, right? Probably what I consider to be the worst tank in the game is DJ. DJ gets no love. He is just not good, and take it from someone who got him to Fighting Spirit 30 and full cars just to see if he could actually do something good, and I regret that because he doesn't do anything good. He is just not a good unit. He is at the bottom of the pile. That is the standard you cannot drop below, okay? So at the opposite end of the spectrum, who would I consider to be the best tank in the game? Now this might actually raise a few eyebrows, it might have a lot of people agreeing with me, but I feel like some people might disagree, but allow me to explain. The best tank in the game, in my opinion, is Able, hands down, and I'll explain why it's Able. Able, that particular version of Able, he has this instant shield that blocks hits, okay? Now if you're someone who plays manually, you'll know what I'm talking about if you use that Able versus the new Able, SuAble. There's a delay with SuAble on how quickly his shield comes into play, okay? It's like you do the action and you've not got the shield right away, whereas with this Able, you press it, you've got that shield, okay? It can literally be the difference maker with you getting past a huge attack or being able to push on to get higher scores. He takes a good licking himself, he actually takes a good bit of damage, but he actually protects the entire team, okay? And the reason that I put him as the best tank in the game, in my opinion, is his shield, his best shielding ability comes from his C1, and you're not really having to sacrifice your C2 or your super to get the most out of this guy, okay? You are going to get a lot from this guy just by having him doing your C1. He's fantastic, he'll take a licking and he'll keep going. And he fits on anything. You can just drop him into a team and he will work, okay? Now, the reason that I put him above this character, okay, who is fantastic, he's got a basic revival mechanic and stuff like that. I don't think Goken is as plug and play as Able is. You can literally put Able on any team, right? But with Goken, because ideally you want to use his C2, you're really putting him into setups where you've got that C2 going spare, if that makes sense. Like, you're probably not going to put Goken on a team with the likes of Akuma because you want that C2 to be used by Akuma. You don't have that worry with Able, but you've got that worry with Goken. On an ideal team, I think Goken's better than Able, but the fact that Able can go onto any team, his utility basically, I think makes him a better overall shield unit, and that's why I would actually say that I think that Able is the best shield in the game. But again, that's not like talking down Goken in any way, shape or form. It is literally just because Able fits anywhere, and that is the reason why I would put him where I put him. Now, I might be judging this unit harshly, I just do not find this unit to be great. I'm not a fan, and it is our man Hugo. I don't know, I just don't like him. I don't like his potato mechanic. I just don't think he's very good. I mean, he is more or less what I would call a meat shield. Like, he doesn't seem to do much other than, yeah, he can take a bit of damage, but when you're facing teams that don't necessarily just hit the unit at the front, you need your shield or your tank to do more than that. And I feel like with Hugo, you're not really getting that. To be honest, I could maybe argue that I should put him down in fact, I'm going to put him down in D. I don't think he's worse than DJ. I think DJ is like the worst, but I do think he's worse than the next unit that I'm going to put on, and I think the next unit at least deserves to go a tier higher than this guy, if not potentially 2 tiers higher. That would be T-Hawk. Now, T-Hawk I still don't think is actually a fantastic tank option, right? He does do like cleansing of certain debuffs and stuff. I just don't know if you would run him for that reason. You know, you've got like more options now when it comes to debuff cleansing, and I think you would be better off actually using a support unit that can get rid of debuffs than running T-Hawk for that purpose. But he does bring more to the table than simply being a meat shield, so for that reason he's not going to go into the D tier, okay? He's simply not. But I don't think he's great, and I'm going to put him at C. I mean, some people could argue with me he should go in B, and if you've got a compelling reason, I probably wouldn't fight you on it, and I'd say that okay, put him in B, but I do genuinely think he's more or less a C tier unit, okay? Next one isn't actually a tank. He's not, but he is in a lot of ways. Bison, let's just put him up here at S tier. Bison by definition isn't a tank, right? Bison just has a really weird broken mechanic where if you put him in front, he doesn't particularly take damage very well. He just won't die. And that actually works quite well for him, because if he takes damage quickly, he's going to do that die, explode, die, explode. So even though he's not a tank, he kind of serves the function of a tank, and just letting him stand there, just let him stand there and explode, which most people do, he's going to do a hell of a lot of damage for you. So it would be doing a disservice if we didn't put him into S tier. So even though by definition he is not a tank, he definitely can serve that role pretty well. And the thing is, you can have him on a team with other tanks, you know, you just need to make sure that he doesn't go before them, like and the tanks don't go before him in the lineup. What I tend to do is, if for whatever reason I'm using Able on the same team as Bison, which I don't do very often, I would put Able into the slot 4 so that Bison stays at the front, you know. Just, there's things you've got to do just to make sure Bison's at the front taking as much damage as possible. But you guys all know by now, he's great for that reason. Now, moving on, we're speaking tank here, right? Again, we are speaking their ability to stay alive and perform their function, okay? We've got Fashion Blanca. Now, as a tank, so as a unit who is going to take a lot of damage and continue to perform their role well, I would put him at B. As a DPS, I would put him at S. But as a tank, someone who is there to take as much damage as possible and just keep going and going and going, I don't think he's great at all. I think they completely mislabeled this unit. I think he is totally a DPS unit. He is just not a tank. Like, he's not. Everyone knows he's not a tank, but they've got him as a tank. So for that reason, we're going to grade him as a tank, and as a tank, I think he's a B. Again, just everyone be completely clear, as a DPS, I think he is S tier, right? He is absolutely S tier as a DPS, okay? But he's not even got that much defense. Like, if you put him onto a team with Bison, he'll actually go behind Bison. And usually the unit with the most defense, or is it HP, it's one of the two, go to the front. He doesn't, you know, because he's not a tank. So he's going to go into the B tier for tanks, okay? Again, for tanks. Next up, we have Basic Honda. Where would I put Basic Honda? Honestly, I don't want to just put every goddamn tanking unit into the S tier, right? But if we examine his kit, Honda is S tier, right? Now I'll explain quickly why. He has got a bullet wall that will block projectiles. Discussion that was said on Discord last night, just to clear it up, ranged attacks, right, are projectiles. Just to be clear, it's bad wording, right? If you look at Viper's super. She stands way back there and she hits the person on the back line. You would call that a ranged attack, but it's not a ranged attack by definition within the game. What it means is projectiles. So bullet wall is actually quite a good name. That goes up. Anything that is a projectile from an enemy, it will block, okay? Which is great. He is also got a kind of, what do they call it? Like desperation or something? This mechanic where he'll gain a certain amount of HP back. If you've not got someone that's hitting him hard enough, he'll keep coming back and back and back. He's also got a disrupt. That's not the right word. Interrupt. He's got an interrupt on his skills as well. He actually is pretty good. He is pretty good. He takes a licking, so he ticks that. He helps the team. Bullet wall. Also blocking super attacks, completely killing the enemy's combo. That's fantastic as well. For that reason, I'm quite happy to put him into the S tier as a tank, right? For what he's doing overall for the team. Now this one I'm a little bit iffy on, and to be honest, I do really want to put him up here, but I'm going to put him here, even though I don't know if I should, because Zangief, he's boosting the defense against elements, pretty much every element in the game apart from like 2, I think, factions rather than elements. He has the ability to block passives, meaning he can just straight up nullify this guy. He can actually help nullify this guy as well. He has a lot going for him. I need to put him there. I can't not put him there. I think it's situational though, you know, like this guy, I feel like he's someone you can run all the time, and you would run all the time on specific team builds. You don't really have the need to do that with this guy. I mean, you could say the same for this guy as well. But I don't think that's enough to say that they're not still top tier, you know? I think they absolutely are top tier. And I think that I would be doing them a disservice if I said that they don't deserve to go into the S tier. And honestly, for that reason, I'm going to put them up here. I feel like I'm getting into that territory again where I'm just going to have everyone in the S tier and no one in the A tier. But as a tank, he's doing what he needs to do. I mean, I don't actually think he takes as much damage as Honda, to be honest. But if Honda's not going to do what Zangief does for you against the teams that Zangief is going to help you excel against, you know? If you are facing these people that have these mechanics on their passives, even bosses at times, you know, Zangief can actually be the difference maker. He's got to go up there. He's got to. There's no other place I can put him. There's not. So he's going there. He's going there. That's just the way it is. Right, next up, we've got Honda. Rigo Honda. This is just going to be how this looks. There's nothing I can do about it. I mean, it is what it is. They serve different roles, right? But Honda, as a tank, I mean, as a support, he's a tank. As a tank, he's a support. You know, he fills both of those roles at the same time. It's not like he isn't doing everything at the same time. I mean, he's supporting the team by decreasing the enemy's resistance to damage. He is technically hindering the team by taking some HP away from them, but it doesn't really ultimately matter as long as you've set your team up right. He's doing a lot of damage by himself. He can take a hell of a lot of damage. I mean, how can you not put him in the top tier? Like, you've got to. Like, you've absolutely got to. Unlike a lot of these other units, however, he is the type of unit where I would be quite happy to run him on the team with another tank, right? Like, I'm not going to run Able and Goken on the same team, right? I'm not going to run Able on the same team as Honda. I'm not going to run Able on the same team as Zangief. I would potentially run Able on the same team as Honda, you know? Like, he's got that kind of thing about him where he's a little bit more diverse. So I think he brings a lot more to the team than just simply being a meat shield that maybe gives you some buffs or whatever. So he does deserve his place up top. I'm not even going to argue with myself anymore, right? Next up, this one is like actually properly difficult to do because I don't even know if he's really a tank, to be honest. But Balrog, where would I put Balrog? Balrog, I don't think Balrog's a good unit. Right, simply I don't think he's a good unit. I mean, if you do this with Balrog, you can make Balrog work, right? But I think even putting him here is too generous. I mean, technically he's not a tank. I just don't know where else you would classify him because I don't think he does enough to be qualified as a DPS. He certainly doesn't do enough to be qualified as a support. I'm going to put him here. It's unfortunate. I know a lot of people are going to get upset at that because they just spent a lot of their currency summoning for a unit that's trash, but I'm going to put him there. Again, it's difficult because I don't think, technically speaking, he is a tank, but we're classing him as a tank for the purposes of this video because I don't know where else to put him. Next up, we've got SuAble. Now, SuAble's a difficult one, right? I'm not putting him here, I'm just using this to resize it, right? Where would I put SuAble? So, here's the thing about SuAble, right? SuAble is not as good as Disable. Straight up, he's not. He's not as good as Disable. But he is good. He has certain kinks about his kit, however, that I don't necessarily like. Like, he's got this delay when you use his C1, for example. He just, like, I don't know what it is about it. It's just that delay in the action of it, one, happening, and two, performing the function of giving you a shield. It makes me kind of not like him as much. However, I do use him a lot. He's also got healing, which is pretty good as well. And he does alright damage, I suppose, for kind of chip damage on your squads. I mean, honestly, if I put him here, I would be putting him here just because I do not want this A tier to have nothing in it. But I'd be lying if I didn't put him up here. He's absolutely solid. I mean, again, he's performing a specific function. He is taking a lot of damage, he's staying alive, he's protecting the team, he's healing the team. I mean, you can't, like, say he's not top tier. You just can't do it, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately because, I mean, I don't want to not put people in this A tier, although I'm going to put somebody in this A tier, right? And it's going to trigger some people. And do you know what, actually? I'm going to move Bison down to A. I'll explain why. Because if you look at all of these other units, what have they all got in common? They've all got something in common, that as a tank, in the tanking role, they are doing more than one thing. They are staying alive themselves, they're protecting the team, they are doing more than one thing, right? Gokin takes a lot of damage, revive people, give people shields. This guy, he stays alive, he can interrupt, he puts up bullet walls, keeps the team alive. This guy here blocks passives, he does defense increase for your team against other factions. You've got this guy here, he's supporting the team, he's doing damage, he's doing lots of different things causing the enemy to take more damage. You've got this guy here, what's he doing? He's staying alive, he's giving the team shields, he's healing the team. They've all got more than one function, they all do more than one thing. In the tanking role, this guy in the tanking role stands there and he takes damage and he explodes. He's great at it, but he does one thing. So I can't really put him up here if he's doing that one thing, even though he's doing it well. So I'm going to put him in the A tier. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm also going to put this guy in the A tier. Because this guy, in a lot of ways, is kind of like this guy. He stays alive. He's got his sort of a, is it Imperator? Is that what it's called? Where he kind of, it's hard to kill. And he's kind of performing the function of a DPS while taking a lot of damage, you know? I mean, he is more of a DPS tank. He's not really doing that much for the team. He's doing it more for himself, and he'll take a good bit of damage and he'll dish out damage. But you're kind of going to run him as a DPS on that team to get anything out of him, really. Unless you're going to have him just standing there being a meat shield, which he can do. But I don't think he brings as much to the table as these other units, so that's why I'm happy to put him down here. I mean, he's great, don't get me wrong, he's great. But as your tank, unless you're looking for a unit who you're going to be quite happy to give up your C3, because he's got a decent C3, I just don't think you're going to run him as a tank above these guys, right? And that also is the same for this guy here. He is doing his job while providing stuff for the team. Like, as he's passively dodging, he's giving a buff to the entire team. He is interrupting, which he's got. He actually attacks pretty well as well, you know, he does a good bit of damage, but he's serving the role of a tank pretty well. He's staying alive, he's providing kind of a support function to the entire team with his dodging, giving buffs to people. And as well as that, you can also use his C1 to kind of get a guaranteed interrupt as long as you time it right as well, which is obviously fantastic. Now, he is the only paid tank that's on this list, but I mean, if we go with the qualifying criteria of what do they do, how well do they do it, and do they do things for the entire team, then I'm happy with this. If I had to rank them in a kind of order for being a tank, right, purely being a tank, right, I'd probably put them like this, okay? Now, overall, as a unit, I would probably actually lean more towards Honda than I would towards Gouken, but as a tank, it's a different story. So, while overall, I think that I would put Honda above Gouken, for pure, I need a unit that's going to help my team survive longer, I would put Gouken above Honda, right? But if we actually take things on the basis of overall what does a unit do, then I honestly think I'm Team Honda. To be honest, I do. I think I'm Team Honda. But again, when you're using Gouken on the right squads and the right builds, and your purpose is I want to survive longer, then it's a no-brainer. I think you're better off going with Gouken, as long as you're building the team around about that function. But overall, I do think that probably Honda brings more to the table as an overall unit, right? So that's it. That's the list. People might not agree. I've got a funny feeling people won't agree with the A line, to be honest. But that's just, it is what it is. But the one decision that I am absolutely locked in on is Able is the best tank in the game, because of how versatile he is, how easy he is to drop into teams. I just think that Able, hands down, especially for a unit that's easily accessible, free to play, I think he's phenomenal and top spot in my opinion. Last video is going to be the assist slot, so the top slot. Again, this is my opinion. You guys are free to disagree, you're free to have your own opinions, it doesn't matter. If people in the comments don't agree and you do agree, you don't need to fight with them, just share your opinion. Simple as that. I have been Hayzink, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.